that moves on quite nicely to the traffic light dashboards. So it kind of explains this, but on a different light. Let me let the graphic roll for a couple of seconds because that's quite cool. Okay, so this is per product. So if we want to look at a product that Glasswall offers, we would see something like this. And it works in exactly the same way as what we've just seen in the previous slide. So we're using Jupyter to basically manipulate the data in Jira, and we're displaying all of the highest risks, or sorry, all of the risks that are associated to, in this case, product X. And what it's showing us, I mean, product X has 8 different categories, and it color codes them depending on the severity of that category. So we could easily give this to an exec or a board member, and we could say, look, here's the product. Look at the red stuff. That's the stuff we need to be concerned about. And it's quite easily digestible as opposed to old-fashioned ways of doing it, if you like. But obviously the plan is for this to, over time, is to start going, more green as time goes on. But yeah, so product-based risk. And another example of that is product Z. So again, the same sort of concept. I've normalized all the data on this one because I didn't want to show anything, but you get the idea. So you can start seeing like the traffic lights in terms of the risk score for that product.
And this traffic light data, this is literally high, medium, lows, right? So this is literally the data that we capture in Jira as one of the attributes of the tickets. So again, like if we, and eventually, the idea is for some of those values to actually be calculated dynamically based on other set of inputs. But the point is that the way we normalize this and the way we manage it is through an attribute in the Jira ticket that is responsible for that particular ticket.
Exactly. Yeah. So as soon as one item becomes high, it will go red, and then we know we need to pay attention to it. And the other view of this is we can do it by division, if you like. So multiple teams that make up a division, essentially. And then we can display the risks that were associated to that division. So if you want to, sit down with your team and sort of describe what the highest risks are, we can do it by division as well. So we can now sort of report on the highest risks per team member, but by manager, by product, by division. So we're really starting to sort of bring to life all the data we've got into Jira in an easy to digest sort of format.
And it's important to say that these titles here have to be basically 100% relevant to the company, right? This is the things that when you think and you present, this is the stuff that we care about, it has to make sense to everybody. And it's always critical that you refactor this to take into account the language that the target audience understands. So it's easier to make sure that it has language that they understand, and then you're trying to shove things in here that that makes no sense. Because remember that you can hyperlink from here, right? So you hyperlink the next level down and next level down, and every level you go down becomes more granular, more technical, more almost domain specific.
Exactly. Yeah. And then going back to the slide Petra mentioned about the risk register, so it now allows us to report on the risk register from like the top level. So we can see, the 4 different categories, and each of the items underneath that are color coded depending on, the sort of severity of that particular category. So this is a really cool way of having, a quick glance at, if you like, at the risk register overall for a company, and it will tell you sort of the areas to focus on. And this again can be used in board meetings, if you like, to get an idea of how current risk status. And that was it, to be honest. So the next goal for us is to use Elasticsearch. So we want to go up a level. We want to start using Elasticsearch to sort of manipulate the data and create a lot of these graphs for us in like a better format and on demand. And the overall objective is to have everyone at Glasswall go into like a dashboard location, and they can make their own risk charts, risk graphs, and find out who's responsible for what, and just make it a bit more kind of interactive. Q&A.
Well, actually, there's another thing that we adding. If you go back to the previous slide, show me one of the diagrams. Yeah. So one, or maybe the one before. So one of the things that we now adding is also a risk 3 to 6 months ago. So where the team was, and also what is the projected moving forward. So what this gives you, it also gives you a sense of movement of what you're doing. So imagine, in each of these zero ticket items, you're now going to have three risk ratings. You have one risk rating, which is where we were 6 months ago. You have another risk rating is where we are today, and another risk rating, which is where we expect to be in in 3 months or 6 months from now. And what this is very important is because is the first delta, where we were and where we are, shows the evolution of the team, and the second one, where we are, where we want to be, shows where the team is actively working on, and where we are actually, engaged um, in, in activities. And this is actually very important because one of the things that we sometimes don't talk about is that let's say that you have a security team that has zero individuals, right? Let's say that the team was here today and then everybody, disappeared overnight, right? What happens is that you don't become massively insecure, from day one, right? What happens? Yeah, some things might go red very quickly, but it means that over time, suddenly a lot of the mediums or even the lows that were kept that way because there was a team in there, suddenly they start to become red, right? Because suddenly those activities are not happening. So this allows you to start to understand what is the impact of the existing team, what are they doing, are they moving the needle? So, for example, let's say you have a security team that today is already completely maxed out, right? That means that that team is maxed out just with BAU stuff. They're not going to be able to change any of this. This what is almost like you go to the business and say, look, this risk dashboard is exactly the risk dashboard that will exist in 3 months from now because the existing team is not able to evolve. If the team is already overstretched, then actually it might get worse. If the team actually has the ability to do new things or to evolve, then some of these will become orange. And that's ultimately what you're saying. You're saying, look, our job for the next 3 months is to transform three of these boxes into orange or green, right? And then if the business turn around and say, well, that's not good enough, then you have a very good metric to have a conversation about budgets and activities and focus, right? Because then you can go from a business point of view. You say, look, are we in alignment of where, for example, the security team is spending their resources? Are we okay that we focus on making sure that that box goes from red to light orange, right? Or to red to orange. And that's something that from a business point of view works really well because you can have that conversation. Cool. All right, Chris.